Hello and welcome. My name is Charles Wolf and I am a freelance video game composer. I write music for games all the time and I really love this job that I get the privilege of doing. I'm very excited to be doing something that I'm passionate about and excited about and to share a little bit about what it's like to be a video game composer with you all, at least from my perspective. I'm delighted to be here at the Indie Gamer Game Awards and to be part of this amazing community of people who are making incredible games all the time. Okay, I want to give you a little bit of a background about myself and my music. I started being interested in music at a very early age. When I was 3 and 4 years old, I'd be running around the house with my fake toy guitar, strumming away, singing songs. When I was about 7, my mom tried to teach me how to play piano. Wasn't very interested in it. I was more distracted. I wanted to go outside and play with my lightsabers. Wasn't interested in really music stuff all that much. But when I was 10, my best friend at the time, he had played piano and used to show what he could do on the piano. I'm like, that's so cool. I want to be able to do that. And so I started lessons with a different teacher, not my mom, and made great progress, and within 3 years had progressed through a number of teachers. And when I got to college at 16, I decided I want to study music. Specifically, I wanted to study how to write music. So I went on to get my bachelor's degree in music composition from California State University, Stanislaus, and then I went on to get my master's degree in music theory and in music composition from Texas State University. And then I have, in the meantime, been working on my skills as a composer over the last 7 or 8 years since college. So the beginning of the pandemic, I had been teaching private lessons and I decided I wanted to do more with the composing side of myself. I had performed a lot as a professional pianist and decided that I wasn't really seeing that go anywhere. I wanted to do something that let me express myself more and be more creative and collaborative, where it wasn't just me doing an entire project, but it was with a group of people and creating something really unique and special. And so at the beginning of 2020, I realized I did a lot of soul searching like most people did for obvious reasons. Everyone was sort of in lockdown. And then in 2021, I began to start to actively seek work as a video game composer. I have, over the past year, been able to score about 16 games, which is pretty exciting, and I have built up a little bit of a following on Twitter. You can check me out at CWolfMusic. So what is the process? What is my process of writing music? Okay, so first step is when I get a game developer coming to me for their game, I take a look at the game. I usually look at either screenshots or I'll look at actual gameplay footage, maybe even play a little bit of the game, but not always. And I will get kind of a feel for the genre and the style. What's the energy level like? That's a big question I ask myself. What's the energy of the scenes? Is this part of the level like a low energy zone? Is this a high energy zone? Is this like a tension building zone? Is this a battle, combat zone? Like where in the game are we? And what does the music need to feel like relative to that? I usually ask the developers who come to me to score their games, I usually ask them to send me a couple examples of other game music from other people that have a similar genre, style, vibe, something about them that they like. And that is a great way to kind of launch myself forward. I don't copy other people's work, I don't want to ever do that, but I will listen to it, kind of get a vibe, kind of get a feel for what's the genre, what's the energy, what's the instrumentation like, those sort of things you can use. And the main thing you want to avoid ever is never ever copy someone else's melody. You have to come up with your own original melodies. That's the thing that you can copyright the most. So be very, very careful when if you're ever looking at anybody else's stuff, don't copy their melodies. That's the main thing. Instrumentation is whatever. Sometimes even some harmony stuff can be borrowed a little bit, but you mostly want to be as original and creative as you possibly can be. All right, so let's talk a little bit about a specific example. So I had a game that I worked on called The Island of Spirits. It's by an amazing developer named Amadox. You can check him out at Amadox on Twitter. And he has worked on a number of games since then, but this was a game that I worked on with him. This game is about a knight. He goes on a quest, and he is going through this jungle. And in this jungle, there are lots of monsters to fight, and it's a roguelike. And it's very difficult. I've died many times trying to play this game. As you're working through it, there are bosses and treasure and fun loot to find and silly characters. It's a really fun game. So it has a kind of a fantasy adventure vibe immediately. I also wanted it to have sort of a retro synthetic, synthy background to it, kind of SNES, sort of like Legend of Zelda, as sort of my basis of inspiration for this game, and trying to create a whole new soundscape specifically for this project. So what did I do? Okay, so that's the main theme. I immediately knew I wanted it to be very upbeat, energetic, and have this very great sense of forward energy, forward motion. Maybe a little bit slower. That's where I started. So how did I build this? So the first thing is we're in the key of D major. D is our primary note, and I'm using the F sharp, which is part of the scale. We have this opening arpeggio, this broken chord on D. Okay, and so that's kind of the opening idea, and I made sure to give it more energy by not starting on the beat. This is on the beat, which is a different feel. You can feel the difference of that. It starts after the pulse. So here's the pulse. 1 and 2 and 3, so it has a very up feeling because I'm not starting on the melody on the beat, I'm starting slightly off the beat, and has that syncopation, is what that's called. And so on the way up, that's the first kind of main motive, the main idea, musical idea behind it, is that rising arpeggio. Then it comes down, and it steps down the scale. Whenever you do a jump up, like a fourth, for example, or bigger, so a fourth or a fifth or a sixth, those kind of intervals, bigger intervals, big leaps in the melody, it's a good idea to step backwards. So for example, if I was to do something like this, right, that sort of idea, I'm jumping up and I'm stepping back. So here I kind of have that happening in the arpeggio. That's a fourth. So I have it step back to kind of follow a good melody line sort of guideline. Now this part here, that is from the D minor scale. So I'm kind of mixing my two modes here. I'm mixing my major scale, D major, with my D minor scale. Okay, so you can kind of hear that. I'm also using, if you want to get a little more technical, I'm also using what's called a minor 4 chord. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. But it's just this G minor chord that I'm using. So instead of using like a major chord like you normally would in the D major scale like this, that sound. I'm not doing that. I'm using. If it was a major, it'd be like this. Which also works, but doesn't have that fantasy element that I need. It's the mixture of the major bottom half of the scale with the minor upper half that gives it the energy. I really wanted to have sort of a slightly techno kind of thing. So in the bass, instead of holding the chords, I actually decided to have them do these kind of bouncing octaves with the eighth notes. An octave is 8 notes apart, by the way. After I had that, I added in the synthesizers, all the instrumentation, and put it together, and this is what it sounds like in its entirety. Foremost, I want to say thank you so much to the Indie Gamer magazine for having me be part of this awesome award show. I am delighted to talk about my music anytime I can, and this was really, really fun to get to do and show you a little bit about my process behind how I came up with this main melody, at least the first part of it. If you want to see more of my work, you can certainly do that at charleswolfmusic.com. Again, that's charleswolfmusic.com. Follow me on Twitter at cwolfmusic, and you can also check out my work on SoundCloud, Charles Wolf Music as well. Thank you so much for listening to my talk today about my process of writing music for video games. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at any of the ways I just mentioned. I would love to talk to you more about the process and talk to you more about my music. Thank you so much again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.